Hey, I wanted to try something a little different today. I wanted to take a look at theming and editing Gnome shell. So I'm going to start with what I personally think is the easiest, and that's the panel, or the shell CSS itself, which is, if you go to Adwaita, which is the default theme, it starts out as one big CSS file. Some of the third-party ones that people make by themselves are better organized or more organized. But everything's got a pretty straightforward name, and it's all straightforward CSS. It's a little less forgiving than the rendering in Firefox would be. Like, you can't do negative margins or some other ugly tricks, but it helps you to write good CSS. So that's not a bad thing, per se. And it's all pretty straightforward stuff. I mean, it's well labeled. You can see here the panel section is starting. And you can go in and you can change things like colors, fonts, weights, everything, icons, you name it, you can change it. And if you hit Alt F2 to bring up this command box and then type RT to reload the theme, you can see your changes in effect immediately. So that's also pretty cool and pretty straightforward. And yeah, I mean, just take a look around. If you want to know what something's called, you can also run the looking glass. This eyedropper, it's not the best tool in the world, but it'll give you some idea. You can see it outlines in red, and then it gives you a name in here somewhere. Like this has the dot panel dash button class. So if we wanted to change panel buttons, we'd now know what to search for in the CSS. So it's just like inspecting in Firefox, but a little less precise, a little more buggy. And it's also got a real-time evaluator for GJS, Gnome JavaScript, which is based on the SpiderMonkey engine. But yeah, and I don't use that a whole lot because that's more for writing extensions, which I've barely scratched the surface of, and we'll get to that later in this video maybe. And you can just hit escape to close that. So after the shell CSS, there is your GTK theme, and these are a little tougher to change. You actually have to open the tweak tool and switch to a different theme and switch back to see your changes. But they've usually got all the colors for the color scheme defined in one file. So if you just want to make a quick edit to a color theme, this is the place to start. You can also find that for your GTK2 theme. It'll all be in one big ugly line here, but if you keep these consistent and it's a well-made theme, you should be good to go. And then you've got your widgets, which is where most of the heavy lifting is done. This one's 3,500 lines of CSS. You can literally change every fucking thing about your theme here. I don't personally have the patience to go through and make one of these, so I generally keep myself happy by finding a theme that's close to what I like and changing some colors, maybe one or two small changes here and there, but nothing big. This is a little beyond the scope of my attention span. But that's all easy enough to do, and if you are motivated, go for it, because the freedom there and the power there is incredible. I mean, you can make whatever you want. And it's pretty neat. Pretty neat. There's another tool that just came out too. It's called the GTK Parasite. It basically gives you an inspector on a running app. Here you can see I've launched it on Nautilus. There's a good write-up on World of Gnome about how to get it installed and how to use it, but this is how you run it. You load it as a module and then run the program. And it kind of tacks itself on, and you get to go and take a look at what everything's called, and you can change the CSS in real time, and you can click on a button to go find out what things are named here. Yeah, that gets a little fucked up while I'm doing a screen recording for some reason. But you can see it brought it up here. Normally it'll highlight each box just like the Firefox Inspector or the Looking Glass. And it'll give you all these things, and you can go in and change stuff to your heart's content. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna let me do any of that while I'm recording. But yeah, Parasite, I'll probably put a link to that in the description because it's awesome. And if you're into making GTK themes, I imagine it could be pretty handy. And then there are extensions. I've only done this once, and if you run this command here, this gnome shell extension tool dash dash create extension, it'll ask you a few questions, like to set your namespace and stuff, and give a little description, and it'll give you basically a hello world that's pre-made, and when you click the button it'll pop hello world up on the screen, and that's what I kind of based my snowflake or my gsnow extension on. All I really learned about was tweeners, which is a JavaScript library for animations. I guess it's based on something from ActionScript, which is a Flash thing, but yeah, I haven't gotten too deep into this. I'd still like to learn more about how the pop-up menus and the panel menus and stuff work so that I could give this a user interface. But I've learned enough to make things fall down the screen, and that's kind of cool. I'm proud of that. This is my little Valentine's Day one. It says love, and it's just the same exact thing, but with a different set of flakes and a different bit of CSS to style them. So, yeah, nothing too fancy or in-depth or to be proud of, but I am proud anyway, because it's cool, man. It's cool to have this kind of power over your desktop environment. Anyway, those are the things that I really know about GNOME, and just thought I'd share with you guys and try something a little different here instead of just focusing on the browser rice. Maybe help you out if you're also a GNOME user. Yeah, that's all I know, and I'll catch you guys next time.